Hi, we're continuing our series on discipleship, looking at the words of Jesus as we find them in Matthew 28, verses 18 to 20, a passage we often refer to as the Great Commission. I'd like us to focus in on verse 19 this morning, where we read these words: "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations." Now, many believers, upon hearing these words, immediately disqualify themselves, exempt themselves, concluding that these words are meant for the more missionary-minded, for those with a great sense of call to go and to take the gospel to other people in other lands and other places. True enough, these words do apply to those who are prepared to up sticks and go, but they equally apply to each and every one of us who stay right here at home. Why is that? Well, it all hinges on our understanding of this little word, go. The Great Commission has but one imperative, one command, and that is disciple. Make disciples. And the word go is not there so much as an imperative command. It's there much more in the sense of as you go. It's there to help us understand what's involved in fulfilling the command to make disciples. Similarly, the word baptize and the word teach do exactly the same thing, help us to understand. So the Great Commission ought to read something like this: as you go, disciple the nations, baptizing them and teaching them to obey. So we are called to disciple as we go. Now, before we dig a bit deeper and see what this means, maybe we just need to pin down a couple of definitions. And the first one is a definition of the discipleship process. And the best definition I've come across is this one, which says it's helping people to trust and follow Jesus, a two-part process that involves bringing them to faith in Christ in the first place and then moving them on to maturity in the second. And surely isn't this what we see in the very ministry of Jesus, who made that call, follow me, to a bunch of guys, a real ragtag bunch of guys with practically no understanding at all of who he was and what he was about, what he was doing and what he was calling them to do. And as the story unfolds in the Gospels, we see Jesus doing these two things. He brings them to that point of understanding where they know who he is. And he also takes them and moves them on, equipping them to be like him and to be involved in the mission that he is involved in. What is a disciple? A disciple is someone who is following Jesus, someone who is being changed by Jesus, someone who is committed to the mission of Jesus. Taken right out of those words that Jesus said to those disciples by the Sea of Galilee when he first called them: "Come, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." Okay, so what does it mean for us to disciple as we go? Well, I think the first thing that we can say is this: it's all about intentionality. There needs to be a greater degree of intentionality in our disciple making. Disciples don't just happen. Disciples don't just suddenly find themselves on a road to maturity. If that were the case, our churches would be brimming full of the most Christ-like people in the world. And I know it, and you know it. That's just not the case. As we look at the ministry of Jesus, we see from the very beginning this intentionality in disciple making. There is that occasion that Mark shares with us in chapter 3 of that occasion where Jesus goes up on a mountain, sets aside time to pray, comes down, and then intentionally gathers all his followers and makes that specific choice by name of 12 guys that he wants to have with him and that he is going to send out on mission to preach and to cast out demons. There's a great intentionality in Jesus from the very beginning when he calls and gathers these disciples. Secondly, discipling as we go means just that we have to go. Discipleship takes place not so much in here, in church, as part of a program or a training regime. It happens out there. It happens where the lost are. It happens where those who are far from God are. It involves us engaging out there with those who are far from God. And don't we just see this in the ministry of Jesus? He didn't set up a Bible school in Capernaum and invite these 12 guys to attend and then ask them to invite others to attend. But no, we see him on the move. We see him moving from town to town, from city to city, from village to village, seeking and searching, looking for people, to the ones that he was called and sent to. Jesus operated with a tremendous sense of sentness. John records this so well for us in John 20 verse 21, where we have on the lips of Jesus, "As the Father has sent me, so I am sending you." So our going is going to where the lost are. So thirdly, what does it mean to disciple as we go? Well, it means that we need to be much more on mission than maybe we have been so far. We have to be much more missionally minded. We have to be involved in the whole process of bringing people to faith in Christ and bringing them on to maturity. We all ought to be missionary minded. We all ought to have this sense, this call to go. We should be on mission 24/7. And lastly, what does it mean to disciple as we go? It means that we disciple people in the normal flow of our own lives as we interact with the normal flow of theirs. And again, if you look at the ministry of Jesus, don't we see just that? Jesus taught as he went, dealing with, tackling each and every issue as it arose. He walked with those disciples and others through their doubts and their perplexities and their failings. He taught them with stories and parables and pictures. He taught them through life experiences. He taught in response to their questions. He taught in response to their objections. And he taught out of his observations. Disciple making is a journey as we journey with others in their lives. Jesus calls us to disciple as we go. Are you up for that?